The man who is $1.2 billion in debt and a New York Times best-selling author has just predicted that he believes Bitcoin is going to hit $350,000. And of course, we're talking about the one and the only Robert Kiyosaki, but he hasn't stopped there. He's also came out this year and said, yeah, you know what? I think Bitcoin can hit $10 million in the end game. So today we're going to be diving into the history of Robert Kiyosaki's various predictions that he has made over the past 30 years since he has become what I believe is the most popular name in finance and business. And that is, of course, because of his best-selling book. We're going to get into all of that and more today, but let's start off with what Robert is talking about. So this has circulated on Twitter this week, and many people have asked us to break down what does Robert Kiyosaki potentially know that other people don't know, because he's been very adamant and persistent with these Bitcoin predictions. The most recent one is here. He believes that Bitcoin's going to reach $350,000 by August 2024. And if you're scratching your head a little bit and you're thinking, hang on a minute, it is August 2024. That's a little bit weird. That is because, well, we should be pretty close to $350,000 Bitcoin, according to Robert Kiyosaki. Again, let's break down this tweet. So this tweet came in June. So in June of this year, he says this very interesting long tweet. We're not going to read the whole thing, but he says Bitcoin will be at $350,000 by August 25th, 2024. It's not a lie. It's a prediction, it's speculation, it's an opinion, but it's not a lie. It's sucker's bait, but it's not a lie, because any prediction about the future is not a lie. I want $350,000 Bitcoin to be a fact, and I want it to be true, but it's only a prediction. He says, I am confident Bitcoin will hit $350,000 sometime in 2024. So again, he's not completely married to this August timeline. And he says, this is only a target, a dream, and a wish. Now, there's a little bit more to this tweet that we're going to come back to read in a little bit later on in today's video. But I want to kind of talk about why so many people are paying attention to Robert Kiyosaki's predictions. He has a net worth of around $100 million. Okay. Now, again, in the title of today's video, I used the word billionaire because it's a little bit cleaner than 100 millionaire, but there's a little bit of truth to this because Robert Kiyosaki does actually own $1.2 billion of debt. So he does own over $1 billion worth of assets around the world, okay? Again, forgive me if that's not 100% correct, okay? But this kind of idea and the reason for why Kiyosaki is in $1.2 billion in debt all kind of stems from his very famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We can see here that he's actually sold 40 million copies of that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Just think about that for a minute, okay? 40 million copies. That's a hell of a lot of books, okay? That's an incredible amount of books. That's 10% of the US population has read Kiyosaki's book. This is why he is a household name, and this is why he, like me, lots of other people also say he's potentially the biggest name in finance and business, okay? And the core premise of, his idea in this book was take out debt. We're in a fiat system. Take out debt to buy hard assets, okay? Now, this kind of, summary of his book that I just did in a sentence, I probably did not do it justice. That kind of relates to his original tweet and why he's been a gold bug for a very long time. He's been a gold bug for years and years and years, and why he recently jumped on the Bitcoin bandwagon in the past year or so, okay? He's looking for a digital gold, so to say. So we can see here, he's sold just a lazy 40 million copies of his book. It's been out for 27 years, which is a very, 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 very long time. It was a New York Times bestseller for 6 years in a row. It's an incredibly successful book, but let's analyze the history of Kiyosaki's predictions. Earlier today, we analyzed the history of Max Keiser's predictions in a different live stream on a different YouTube channel. Well, let's have a look at Kiyosaki's, okay? Because let's say it's a little bit of a different history than Max Kaiser's. So let's scroll down and let's have a look. We're not going to read every single one of these predictions because this website was very comprehensive. As we can see, they begin their research in 2011. Kiyosaki says on April 7th, for the educated, an economic crash is the best time to get rich. Guess what? The crashing is not over. At the time, the stock market was kind of struggling to recover from that 2008 crash that it saw in 08 and 09. And Kiyosaki was still incredibly bearish. And we can also see in 2015, he says, I've been predicting a crash since 2002. Okay. And this is very interesting because he's tweeting about everything. In 2017, he's talking about a real estate crash. Another sign a real estate crash is coming. Okay, this is interesting because as we can see, this time, Kiyosaki's prediction of a 2008 like housing crash completely missed the mark. And we can see in the following 12 months after this prediction in 2017, the real estate sector ticker SPDR gained 5%. And the Case-Shiller Home Price Index gained 5.7%. We can see here something similar in 2018, a year later. Unfortunately, we had a big crash in 2000. They called it the dot-com crash. Then we had 2008. It was the subprime crash. And he says, the next is going to be the biggest of all. When it's coming, I don't really know. But the foreshocks are sounding right now. Again, this is in 2018. What happened to the markets in 2018? Well, since that article was published in 2018, the S&P 500 was up by 115%. Meanwhile, what he was telling everyone to buy, gold, only went up by 78%. Now, again, I don't want this video to feel like we're bashing on Robert Kiyosaki. I think he's a cool guy. I think he's a net positive. But again, this is why we always tell you guys, never base your investment decisions upon, one man's predictions. At the very bottom of this article, there's a takeaway that I really wanted to read for you guys, and that's why it's highlighted. Given his atrocious track record, Kiyosaki's morbid predictions on financial assets and the economy should not be taken seriously, and certainly shouldn't cause you to make changes to your portfolio. Okay, so again, Kiyosaki's written a phenomenal book. He understands the fiat system. He kind of understands that Bitcoin and gold is kind of a solution to this fiat system, but please do not leverage your house because you think, because you heard some man with $100 million net worth tell you that Bitcoin's going to $350,000 a coin in August, okay? Because obviously that hasn't materialized. Hey, we've got another, it's the August 21st right now. We have another 9 days, 10 days left of August. Maybe it's going to happen. I don't know. That's potentially wishful thinking. I'm more bullish than most people. I don't think we're going to see that. But this is just another one of those reminders. Please don't leverage your home to buy Bitcoin. Okay, because as we can see, nobody knows where the markets are going to be in the short term or the medium term. But what about the long term? Should we be listening to Kiyosaki's long-term Bitcoin price prediction, where he believes Bitcoin can hit $10 million per coin? Well, that's what we're going to actually be talking about for the rest of today's video. Before we get into that little bit more of a long-term Bitcoin price prediction, I want to give an absolutely massive shout out to today's show sponsor. And that is, of course, Rhino Bitcoin. Okay, you guys probably know this already, but Rhino Bitcoin is an all-in-one Bitcoin super application. You can buy Bitcoin on Rhino, you can sell Bitcoin on Rhino, you can even withdraw Bitcoin from your Rhino application straight to the Lightning Network. Okay, it's really, really cool. You can even send cash globally. You'll be able to do that in the not too distant future. And you're going to be able to actually use Rhino as a part of your retirement plan. Okay, you can do lots of really cool things with Rhino. You can even connect to Casa for multi-signature security, which is something we always recommend you guys really explore here on the channel. We always encourage you to level up your, sovereignty levels, so to say. And multi-signature is potentially something for the advanced user to check out, and you can explore that on Rhino. So again, we highly recommend you check out Rhino Bitcoin today. You can find a link that takes you straight to their website in the description of today's video. So with all that said, let's get back into talking about Kiyosaki and his $10 million Bitcoin price prediction, because it's a big number, okay? Well, I want to actually learn a little bit more about his reasoning for why we're going to see a $10 million Bitcoin, because I think his reasoning here for a $10 million Bitcoin is potentially better reasoning for why he believes we're going to see $350,000 Bitcoin by August, okay? So we can see here, Kiyosaki believes that Bitcoin stocks and even real estate will experience a major crash soon. He bases this on the US debt problem. The US currently has $35 trillion in debt. Yes, that's correct. To put that into perspective, the US now pays 16% of the federal budget on debt payments. Plus, the national debt keeps going up, and there's absolutely no signs of that stopping. Bitcoin bulls like Kiyosaki say this will cause the government to continue printing more and more money, and if it doesn't, the US would potentially have to default on its debt payments. Okay, so Kiyosaki is essentially a hard money advocate. That's what he is. He's advocating for hard money. He sees the debt problem that America has. He understands the debt problem and the debt math so well that he's even $1.2 billion in debt himself, because he understands that the fiat system must continue to grow in size of debt. It must continue to print money to pay off the old debt. Again, the US has well over $200 trillion of unfunded liabilities. How are they going to pay back that debt? You guessed it, they're going to have to print more, okay? Demand for US debt all around the world is waning, okay? Nobody wants US debt. China is dumping their US debt. Japan is dumping their US debt as they're unwinding that carry trade that some people say is $20 trillion in size. We're not so sure it is, but that's a topic for another video. Russia dumping their US dollar debt. Kiyosaki knows that the math of this debt problem is insurmountable. It's impossible. And this is why everybody's bullish on Bitcoin. We can even see from this video here that I probably won't play for you guys today, but we can see $108 billion asset managers like Van Eck is telling CNBC that all the big Bitcoin selling is behind us. He directly says Bitcoin really hits its stride at that point. So we're buyers here. We think it recovers. Again, there's some pretty big names being very openly bullish on Bitcoin right now. They're being loud, they're being proud, and this is all happening at the time that the price of Bitcoin has just been going sideways for the past 6 months here. There's no retail interest. Nobody believes in Bitcoin anymore. And this is potentially the best time to get into Bitcoin and start really exploring Bitcoin in a bigger way and learning more about Bitcoin, okay? Again, you can do all of that and more on the Rhino Bitcoin application. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about why the third largest pension fund in the world recently bought Bitcoin, we actually did a live stream on that 3 days ago if you missed it, okay? The world's third largest pension fund buys into Bitcoin. It is an Asian country buying into Bitcoin, which again is very interesting because recently we had the largest pension fund in the world from Japan, that $1.7 trillion giant, come out in Q1 this year and say, look, we're investigating Bitcoin for diversification strategies. They didn't say they're buying it. They just said we're going to be investigating it. And now we do have the third largest pension fund has just bought hundreds of millions of dollars of MicroStrategy. So again, there could be a little bit of an Asian mystery going on. We did a live stream on that 3 days ago. The third largest pension fund just bought Bitcoin. If you missed that live stream, check it out. It's linked just below. It's in the live chat of today's video. And while you're there, producer Pam says, don't forget to hit the like button, or as All Night Hider says, bruise the like button. Give it a bashing. We appreciate that from all of the 667 of you guys tuning in. Thank you so much to everyone who is tuning in. I know it's a little bit later today. It's 8 o'clock. Does that mean it's 9 o'clock Eastern? Again, we're experimenting. We would love to know whether you guys prefer the later live streams or whether you prefer the earlier live streams. Again, we're open to experimentation and satisfying you guys. When's the easiest for you guys to check out a live stream? We want to hear from you guys, so let us know in the comments down below. And with all that said, well, there you go. It's good morning for some people. It's good morning for Yesia. Good morning to Yesia, and good night to everyone else tuning in. We're going to end this live stream here. Again, check out that other live stream we did earlier in the week if you want to learn a little bit more about why these pension funds are FOMOing into Bitcoin. And if you do want to learn a little bit more about, let's say, why the power law model might break, I should also tell you guys we had an interview with the one and the only Peruvian bull earlier in the week, the man who just recently crossed over 100,000 followers on Twitter. So congratulations to Peruvian. We talked about all things Japanese carry trade, US debt spiral, and why the power law model will break. So again, that video will also be linked in the description down below. And with all that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys